We have a special guest on the show and someone who the world really listens to. Jim Rogers, veteran international investor, on the show this morning on NDTV Profit. Jim, absolute pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much for joining in. Let's start with your take on what's happening right now geopolitically. We have seen the concerns in Middle East tensions rising. We have seen what's happened in Russia yesterday with the Ukrainian drone. And we know that that is something which is going to be on the boil as well. Crude prices have already spiked. You are the commodity guru. Do you see these concerns leading to a further spike in crude?
Well, I'm a fan of your network, as you know, so I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. Yes, I'm concerned about a lot of the things I see. If you go back in history, things like this often happen, and then they lead to big, big problems. And we have a lot of small worries, small wars right now. Unfortunately, history shows that small wars often turn into big wars. So I'm worried. I hope you're worried.
Yeah, okay. No, I mean, the fact is that investors are perhaps not as worried, Jim. Let's put it the other way. There are two wars which have been going on for the better part of a year, and equity investors have shrugged it off. Commodity investors have largely shrugged it off. In India, definitely equity investors have shrugged it off. Why do you think so?
Well, I certainly see what you see. Stock markets around the world are making new highs. Nearly all stock markets. I mean, China's down, but most other markets are strong. So everybody's happy. Unfortunately, I have learned that when everybody's happy, usually something happens to make people unhappy. I hope it's not war. I don't know what it's going to be. But the United States, all stock, well, even China, I mean, even Japan. Japan was down for nearly 40 years. And even Japan is making new highs, has made new highs. So I like that everybody's happy, but I also worry when everybody's happy.
No, that's a good point. Just, Jim, one word on, how you see the Indian stock market story. I mean, I think defying all odds, all commentary on valuations and valuations growing. What is the India story from where you sit?
Well, from where I sit, I'm ecstatic. For the first time in my investing career, it seems that Delhi wants people to be successful, wants people to make money. You know, most of my life, Delhi was anti-capitalist, anti-success, but now this crowd, and for the past few years, it seems that people in Delhi and all over India want to be successful, and they want other people to be successful. It is a very, very exciting time for me watching India because I have never seen this kind of period, this kind of attitude in Delhi. And it's exciting because India could be and has been in the past one of the world's most successful countries. Let's hope that it happens again.
Right. Jim, markets in the US are also up and about with the expectations of a turn in the interest rate trajectory. There's, the probability of, an interest rate cut coming through sooner than later is even higher at the moment. That's potentially one of the reasons why we're seeing strength in the markets. That said, valuations do seem to be high. What is your own assessment of the US markets and how are you dealing with them and in them?
Well, I see the same thing you see. The United States stock market has been going up for a long time. Everybody's happy. We're expecting an interest rate cut. We will probably get one. Then what? You know, maybe we'll even have two interest rate cuts. But the United States stock market has been going up since 2009. That's the longest in American history that we've had a long period without a problem. Maybe it's going to go on forever. In Washington, they say, don't worry. Everything is okay. When Washington says, don't worry, I worry.
Right, fair enough, Jim. So in that case, should we assume that you wouldn't be most comfortable remaining completely invested in the US markets, and you would perhaps also advise to stay in cash to a certain extent?
Well, I am not invested in most stock markets around the world now because I can see so much happiness, so much exuberance. I don't see excess yet. I don't see any reason to start selling short yet, but it's starting to happen. I mean, we're having serious exuberance in many countries, and that often leads to excess, overexuberance, hysteria, and then people should sell short. I am not selling short. I'm certainly not selling short India. I don't have India on my list to sell short. Other places like America or even Japan are more likely candidates for selling short when the time comes.
Are you long India? And if so, I mean, you give us the broad picture that government, in your view, is now backing, the India growth story. But more specifically, within India equity, what is it that you're liking? And are you long India?
I am not long India. I'm embarrassed to say I missed this whole move. I've invested in India several times in my career, but I missed this move. I see what's happening. I'm embarrassed. I wish I were there, but all I can say is I missed it. But don't worry, I've missed many investments in my life. I know there will be more investments down the road.
Okay, so if I take that forward, you're saying you missed this move. At this point, do you think that there is scope to come in, or, has the run-up already taken place and is behind us? You're a little worried about valuations. How do you see it right now as a veteran investor? Because people watching this program right now want to know how Jim Rogers looks at the Indian equity story.
First, I want to tell you I make many mistakes in my life. I've made many mistakes in my investing life and you want to hear about my first wife? Oh my gosh, what a mistake that was. So I make many mistakes. I have missed many stock market moves in my career. I've certainly missed the Indian market. I'm embarrassed because I've invested in India many times in my life. And here, finally, Delhi has the right attitude, and I missed it. I watched it. I see it happening, but I've missed it. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't like to jump on a moving bus. If you jump on a moving bus, sometimes you get hurt.
Okay, that's interesting. Just a couple of points more, Jim, and we talked about crude. I want to get your view on gold as well. Gold has, in uncertain times, become one of the big success stories of this year. Do you see that up move continuing, and where do you see crude going?
Well, I own gold. I have owned gold for many years. I own silver as well. I am not buying either right now, but if I were buying one, I would buy silver. I mean, silver is down a lot from its all-time high. So if I were buying one today, I would buy silver. I'm not buying either, but if either one of them goes down, I hope I'm smart enough to buy more.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jim, for speaking with us. Always a pleasure to hear from the veteran international investor.
I just want to say one thing that I learned about gold and silver from India markets. I went to some of those markets and I would see Indian women, wives with unbelievable amounts of silver and gold.
Right.
So I learned. The Indians have taught me a lot about gold and silver in my career.
But Jim, that's, I mean, the way we look at it here, that's a huge waste of capital to have large amounts of silver and gold locked away in your cupboards or, hanging on your wrists instead of putting it to work. So
I know how you would view it, and the Indian government views it, and many governments view it that way. But when a problem arises, you're very happy you have some gold in the closet. You're happy you have some silver under the bed. I hope problems never arise. I hope problems never arise in your lifetime or my lifetime. But when problems arise, I'm an old peasant, and us old peasants know we better have some gold and silver when problems arise.
Wow. Those are the words from the Jim Rogers. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on NDTV Profit.
It is always my pleasure. I'm a big fan of NDTV.